Hello, everybody. Welcome to the lunch table. I'm Evan. I'm joined with Joel and Nick. Zach will be joining us later. And today we're doing our annual NFL preseason predictions, 2025 edition. So we've done this for the last 2 years, and they've been one of the videos that we like to do the most, and we're always excited to do. So with the NFL in 2 weeks, college football starts next week, so the NFL's in a couple weeks. We're going to predict every single team and see what we think heading into this season. So we're going to start off with the NFC because the AFC. We'll say that for Zach because he likes the AFC.
He does love the AFC.
So NFC, we'll start with the NFC East, and we'll start with the defending Super Bowl champs, Philadelphia Eagles. How do you guys think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be in 2025?
I think this one is a consensus, and even with Zach not being here, I think he would be in the same boat as all of us. I have them as the number one seed in the whole entire NFC. I have them 13-4. I think they're just going to pick up where they left off. I just think they're going to be they're a loaded team still. They've added depth, like the trade to get John Mechie to third. I mean, that's that could pan out. That could pan out. We could see. But I just think this is a deep team. They're young on the defensive side of the ball. They got talent. They got all sorts of just it's unbelievable. This team is unreal. I got them 13-4 and definitely a team to look out for in the championship.
I pretty much agree with everything that Joel just said here. I also have them 13-4, number one seed in the NFC. I have no reason to believe they're gonna drop off from last season. Yeah, they lost a couple guys on defense, but I mean they still have the likes of Jalen Carter, Quinyon Mitchell became a lockdown corner after he got drafted, so their secondary's fine.
Dude, don't forget Cooper DeJean.
Yeah, Cooper DeJean, pick six legend, but their offense is pretty much exactly the same. Lane Johnson, I'm pretty sure is all right. There was an injury scare with him, but I don't think anything's torn his knee, so I think he'll be back for week one. And other than that, their offense is exactly the same. So they're going to be a monster. They're going to be an absolute juggernaut. They'll be in the Super Bowl consideration for a long time.
Yeah, I also have them as the number one team in the NFC. I have them going 14-3. Yeah, I mean, returning pretty much everybody on offense. On defense, they lost Milton Williams and a couple guys, but overall, like Joel said, that team is just so deep that it really doesn't hurt that much. And we saw just how dominant they were in the Super Bowl against Kansas City. And so, yeah, I don't think they're going to skip a beat, even with Kellen Moore leaving as offensive coordinator. I think that team is just so talented and so deep that I don't think they're going to miss a beat. And I think they're just going to, continue to dominate the NFC like they did last year. And like Nick said, they're going to be a team that's going to be around for a long time just because of, how they draft all that stuff. How about the Washington Commanders? Do you think that they're going to have as good of a season as they did last year? They're a pretty surprising team last year. What do you predict their record to be?
In terms of record-wise, I think they will take a slight step back, purely because I think the NFC is very deep, very deep. And also they're going to have a tougher schedule. I have them at 10-7. They sneak into the playoffs as my 7 seed. But I mean, Jaden Daniels is the real deal. They added Deebo Samuel. It's still to be determined whether he goes back to 2019 Deebo or not. Laramie Tunsil on the offensive line. I wonder how their defense is going to hold up against the NFC's elite, which they're going to be going up against a lot more this season. Because Philadelphia dropped 55 on them in the conference title game. So I don't know how that's really going to translate to 2025. I also I think it's going to be a similar season to how Houston was last year. where everyone's expecting them to be like, they're gonna contend for a Super Bowl, maybe come out of the NFC, and they very well still could do that. But year 2 for Jaden Daniels, teams have more film on him, and a tougher schedule, I think is gonna be crucial to them taking a slight step back in terms of record-wise, but they get in the playoffs, and, with a guy like Jaden Daniels, once you get in the playoffs, you can do anything. So, yeah, I have them at 10-7. I could see them winning 12 or so games. I could also see them missing the playoffs because I think the NFC has a lot of actually good teams in it. So we'll see what happens with Washington.
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback off Nick. I actually have them 10-7 and my last team in too. I think you're due for a little regression from Jaden Daniels this year. You factor in the tougher schedule, and man, and Nick, you just keep bringing up the same the points that I like to make. Like this NFC division is like the NFC is deep. Like I could see a genuine 9 or 10 teams being in the running to make the playoffs. I genuinely do. And I'm interested to see how the RB room shakes out now with Brian Robinson being traded. That I think that's going to play a big factor in this one too.
Is Austin Eckler going to be their starting running back?
As of now, I think it's Austin Eckler.
Yeah, but I think they'll probably have a committee for a while.
I do too, and I think Krosky Merritt is going to be the guy. I could see him taking over. I really do. But overall, I a lot of what Nick said, I agree with. I think Washington takes a step down. I could see them missing. I mean, they were literally one game ahead of the team that I have missing. So I think they're still going to be a solid team. I think they're a well put together team, but there's just so much going on with the NFC this year. So
yeah, I also have them 10-7, so we're all in agreement. Yeah, I think the Commanders they made some moves, adding Deebo Samuel, adding Von Miller, adding Javon Kinlaw, adding Laramie Tunsil. So they did improve, but I do think I agree with what you guys said that the NFC is deeper, and we're still unsure about Terry's contract situation. He's off the PUP, so I'm assuming he's probably going to play, but he's holding in right now, and that doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. But a lot of that stuff gets fizzled out the last week of the preseason, and right before the season starts. So, but yeah, I do think that out of both sides of the ball, the defense is definitely the one that I'm a little bit concerned about. Because like Nick said, they got hung 55 on them against Philly, which Philly obviously is a very good team. But yeah, to have them taking a minor step. But if you look at a lot of their wins last year were against bad teams. They beat the Giants, they beat the Bengals, the Cardinals, the Browns, Panthers, Giants again, Tennessee. They didn't really have a whole lot of wins against. They beat Philly, Atlanta, and Dallas to end the season, so they ended well. But a majority of their wins were against inferior teams. So some people think that was a big reason why they had a lot of success. But I think Jaden Daniels is a stud. We saw that last year. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFC, and I think it's going to continue to be under Cliff Kingsbury. But yeah, I have them having a slight decrease, and yeah, I have them also at my last team in the playoffs. So we're all in agreement there. How about them Cowboys? What do you guys think about the Cowboys in 2025?
I can start this one. I have them going 9-8 and being my first team out. I think there's just so much uncertainty. I think also that if they don't figure out something with Micah Parsons, they're going to be the Bengals defense in the NFC from last year. I don't know what to do with this team if they're not going to have. I genuinely don't think they're going to have a good defense whatsoever. I think it's going to be bottom tier in the league, and I think that's going to be something that hinders them to not make it in.
I have them at 8-9. They are not my first team out. I don't even think they're in the running for a playoff spot. I don't know what the end goal here is for Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys. Like they trade for George Pickens, right? And that's going to add, in theory, another dimension to the Cowboys offense. But I feel like him and CD are the exact same type of receiver. So I don't know what, like, yeah, you have another player to actually watch because George Pickens is a good receiver, but he's got some character issues. I think they're overblown, but they're definitely there. And like you said earlier, I don't think their defense is going to be good even with Micah Parsons. Like, Micah Parsons is going to be a guy that you have to account for at all times, but outside of that, I don't trust anyone in their defense to be able to make a play to win a game. And another thing is, you look at their schedule, right? They play their division opponents twice. I mean, you've got 4 games against Philly and Washington. And then they play the NFC North and the AFC West this year. Like, all 8 of those teams are at least on par with Dallas in terms of quality, I feel like. So every single game, you're going into a game that if you don't play your best, you're going to lose. And I think there's too much uncertainty, like Joel said, with Dallas. I don't know what their defense is going to look like at all. So they don't really have a run game either. They did nothing to improve that at all. They did draft Tyler Booker to replace Zach Martin, which I did really like because I do think Tyler Booker is a stud. But other than that, I struggle to see the direction Dallas is going. So 8 and 9 for me.
I have them going 9 and 8, being my first team out of the playoffs. I do think that this offense will be a very pass-heavy offense, and I think they're gonna, CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens and Jake Ferguson, they're gonna get the ball a lot because, like Nick said, they have 0 run game. Their run game is, Javonte Williams, who is inconsistent and injury prone, Miles Sanders, who's the exact same, and then Jaden Blue, who's a rookie. So I don't, on the offensive side, I like them. I think that they could be good under what's it, Schottenheimer or whatever, something like that. But yeah, the defense is just, it's really bad. Outside of Micah Parsons, it's not very good. And I'm not even sure if Micah Parsons is going to be on the team. The way that this looks like it's going, it doesn't look like it's going anywhere positive. So if you lose Micah Parsons, then that defense is one of the worst in the NFL. And so I think that's going to play a big role. And then, like Nick said, I mean, having to go up against the AFC West and the NFC North is tough. Those are 2 of like the top 5 divisions in football. But I do think the offense will be better than it was last year because Dak is, fully healthy, and obviously CeeDee Lamb is electric. And I do think George Pickens and him will help each other, even if they are similar type receivers. But yeah, I think there's just too many holes on this roster to really put them, into that playoff contention. And I just think that Jerry Jones is, being Jerry Jones and making it a lot harder than it needs to be, which is, the story of him in the last, 20 years.
The Jerry Jones special.
Yeah.
It's a joke.
All right, last team in the NFC East, the New York Giants. How do you think they're going to be in 2025?
I have them at 3 and 14.
Okay.
This was okay. I made this prediction before Jackson Dart was balling out in preseason. So I don't, maybe he's the real deal. And if he's the real deal, they're going to win more than 3 games. But like, Daniel Jones also balled out during his preseason, and we'll get to him in a bit.
The starting quarterback for the Colts.
We'll get to him in a minute. But I have them at 3 and 14. I will say their defensive line is going to be absolutely disgusting with the addition of Abdul Carter. Like, I don't like that. That's good for the future. And Malik Neighbors is also a really good piece for the Giants to have in the future. But like, you can't have 2 players in the NFL that are good and expect to be a serious team. In my notes, I have Dable is fired by week 6. I think that is part. I need to look at their schedule. I'm pretty sure they just have like a brutal opening. Yeah, they go at Washington, at Dallas, at home versus Kansas City, at home versus the LA Chargers. So
That's an
they've got
easy
a
home
pretty
field.
brutal opening month of the season. So like if they start 1-5 or like 0-6, Brian Dable's gonna get kicked out. Like he's gonna get shown the boot. So yeah, the Giants just have too many problems with their team right now. Maybe like if Jackson Dart's the real deal, they could have some direction. But it's still to be determined.
I mean, you do have the weapon of Malik Neighbors to build around on the offense, but outside of that, I don't feel very confident in them. I'm in the same boat. I have them 3-14. I think their defenses can win them games. I genuinely do. I think those guys up front are going to be game wreckers, to say the least. Abdul Carter, I think, has a very good chance of being Defensive Rookie of the Year. I just don't see a whole lot. I just don't think that right now, with the offense the way it is, I just don't see them being able to compete a whole lot this year. I think defense can keep them in games, but I just don't know if the offense is going to be there to get them very
Who
far.
knows? But then they'll drop 45 points on the Colts in Week 17.
Yeah, that's true.
Who even
Once
knows?
Jackson Dart solidified himself and Riley Leonard's the starter for the Colts.
Colts just throwing the towel.
They already threw in a towel, dude.
Yeah, I have the Giants going 4-13. They're just not a good football team. I think Russ is going to start off as the starter for the first few games, but I do think eventually Jackson Dart will take over, towards the end of the season once the season's kind of a wash. But yeah, I think that defensive line definitely can win them some games, having Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, and Abdul Carter. That's a nightmare defensive line for teams. So I definitely think that their defense can win them a few games. And obviously Malik Neighbors solidified himself last year as a great wide receiver. And so I expect him to do that again. But really outside of him, there's not really anything. They drafted Cam Scattaboo, who's going to be, battling with Tyrone Tracy for that running back spot. But other than that, there's really not much with this Giants team. So, they're not going to be very good. But, I mean, like Nick said, Brian Dable was like on the hot seat heading into the offseason, and he stayed. So I would imagine if odds are, they start off with a 1-6 or 2-7 or whatever, then they'll probably be having a new coach next year, which I think would be good. But yeah, there's just not a lot to this Giants team. So they just need to hope that Jackson Dart's preseason flashes aren't just preseason flashes. They're what he's going to be. So, but yeah, they're going to be a bad team. All right, let's move on to potentially the best division in football, the NFC North, starting off with the Detroit Lions. How do you think they're going to be in 2025?
You know what the funny thing is? I did the wheel again, and it landed on the North. So
I knew it.
It was meant to be.
it was meant to be. It was meant to be. So, Lions. Nick, do you want to start it?
I can start the Lions. I just need to pull up their schedule.
Actually, I can do it. I have them at 11-6. I have them with a slight regression. I have them as the 5 seed. I don't have them as the best team in the NFC North. And I'll get to that team here in a second. But I think they're still going to be competitive all around. I just think that there's going to be I'm just a little bit higher on a different team in the NFC North. I think they have some tougher games in there. I know they play Kansas City. Do they play the Bills too?
I don't
know. They played the Ravens.
The Ravens. Okay, I had them losing to the Ravens. I know I had them losing to the Chiefs. And then I had them dropping. And then I had them dropping to the Eagles, and then a team within the NFC North. I had them beat them. beating. So I still think they're going to be a good team. Their offense is insane. Defense is still really good, can compete. Aiden Hutchinson is going to be a guy that's in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. I think this is a good team. I just have them as my 5 seed at 11-6.
I have them at 12-5. I have them winning the NFC North. They are my 2 seed. I just think they have by far the best roster in the NFC North, which is crazy because the NFC North has 4 like solid teams. But I mean, even with the loss of both their coordinators, like talent overcomes inexperience at the NFL level, right? You've got Jahmyr Gibbs, top probably 5 running back in the NFL. Penei Sewell, top 5 offensive lineman in the NFL. Aiden Hutchinson, top 5 defensive player in the NFL. Dan Campbell, top 5 coach in the NFL. I think we can put the can he actually coach or is he just a locker room guy questions to the wayside. Like this is year 4 of him in Detroit, and they've gotten better every year. It's hard to believe they'll top a 15-2 regular season, but we'll see what happens when the time comes. I do expect them to get off to a slow start. I think it is going to be a bit of a transition period to figure out what offense and defense they really want to run with their new coordinators. But by playoff time, I expect them to be a juggernaut once again. So yeah, 12-5, NFC North champions, 2 seed in the NFC. I think they will contend for a Super Bowl again this year.
I also have them going 12-5. I have them winning the NFC North. Yeah, I mean, to start off the season, they play Green Bay at Lambeau, then the Bears at home, and then the Ravens in Baltimore. So those are the Green Bay and Baltimore are both really good teams. So I could see them, like Nick said, having kind of that transitioning period. But I mean, this team is still loaded offensively and defensively. Even without Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, I still think they're going to be a really good team. Dan Campbell has solidified himself as one of the better head coaches in the NFL. And, he just creates the culture that he's created there has just been so good that I think even with the offensive line losses that they have, I think they'll be fine. Because the team is still loaded. I mean, you still have Goff, Gibbs, Amon-Ra. I think Jameson Williams is going to have a big year. Laporte is still there. And then on defense, you have, Aiden Hutchinson back. And then you still have, Jack Campbell, Terrion Arnold, Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, all those guys. So the biggest problem with them down the stretch is, they just weren't healthy on defense. They had so many injuries defensively, and that was a main reason why, they didn't go as far as they wanted to. But I think if they can stay healthy, I think they're going to be right in that mix for the Super Bowl just because of how good that team is. And I think Dan Campbell's a phenomenal coach. So even if, without Ben Johnson, without Aaron Glenn, I don't think this team falls off a cliff too much. Some people have been saying, how like the Eagles were when Jonathan Gannon and Shane Steichen left, they took a big dip. But I think that the Lions will be fine, and I think that they're going to still be one of the best teams in the NFC.
Nice.
What about the Green Bay Packers? How do you have them in 2025?
So this is the team I have over the Lions. I have them 13-4. I think so. Here's my thing. I'm going to say
That's a
this.
hot take.
Like I said, I'm higher on the Packers than I am. I think the Packers are in for a good year this year. So here's kind of my logic behind it. And like I said, these are all predictions, could be wrong, and I will fully take the blame if they are terrible. If you go into the year prior, Jordan Love ended the season on a heater. Last year, he played majority of the year injured. I think that they are in contention. I think they have the team that can compete this year. Schedule, if you go through it, isn't as difficult. But I think they still got a great defense. Across the front, you have Rashawn Gary, Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, Luke Van Ness, and everything. Like, that's a great group right there. The only thing I'm slightly worried about is in their secondary
on the defensive side of the ball. But I think this is a team that can compete this year, and I have them 13-4. It may be a hot take, but I'm gonna ride with it. We'll see.
I have them at 10-7. They are third for me in the NFC North. They are my 6th seed. I like they're a team that doesn't have a clear weakness, but also doesn't have an overwhelming strength. Like, I know Jordan Love played most of the year hurt last year. I just he's good, but I don't think he's gonna be like another Brett Favre or another Aaron Rodgers. Like, if you know this reference, he's gonna be the Green Bay Packers version of Jeff Garcia after they had Joe Montana and Steve Young. Not bad, like Pro Bowl caliber quarterback, but he's not a Hall of Fame talent. And I know they were injured last year. Like, they're still 10-7. I still have them as a playoff team. But I don't think they have a very clear strength. Like, I can't put them up against other teams in the NFC and be like, oh, this is where they're going to be able to exploit them. I don't really see it. But they're still a very good team, very good roster. Matt LaFleur is a great head coach. So yeah, 10-7 for me, 6th seed in the conference. I think that's pretty good for them.
I'm with Joel. I have them at 12-5. I have them as my 5th seed. I think they're going to be really good this year. I think Jordan Love is going to be fully healthy, so I think that's going to help. Josh Jacobs was a huge addition last year in that run game. They brought in Matthew Golden, who I think is going to be a difference maker at the wide receiver. And then Tucker Kraft had a really good year last year. And that defense was one of the youngest defenses in the league last year. And they were 5th in opponent points per game, which is pretty good. So I think with them, getting another year under their belt, getting older, I think they're going to be, I think they're going to be a pretty good team. I think that offense under Matt LaFleur is going to be really good. Obviously, LaFleur is one of the best coaches in the NFL. And then like I said, I think with that defense, improving and getting more in the system and getting older, and I think they're going to be a pretty good team. So I have them going 12-5, 2nd in division, with my 5th. What about the Minnesota Vikings?
This is going to be a take that I receive backlash on, but I don't care. I have them at 7-10, purely because I like. JJ McCarthy could very well come in and be like their Brock Purdy. If he comes in and is like Minnesota's Brock Purdy, the Vikings are going to be terrifying. Like, a very, very scary team, because that is the one question mark on that team, is whether or not JJ McCarthy is good or not. But he's essentially still a rookie, and I'm going to stand on the fact I watched him in college. I didn't think he was that great in college. I'm trying to put my bias aside as hard as I can. When I watched him play in college, he just checked down to the tight ends constantly. And the Vikings, now they've got Hawkinson. Still, you can't threaten defenses at the NFL level checking down to a tight end constantly. You know what I'm saying? I think that it's going to take an adjustment period for him to go up to the NFL level in terms of speed and talent. But I just think by the time he gets it under control, it's going to be too late, because the NFC is so good and the Vikings have the schedule that they do because they went 13-4 last year. Some team in the NFC has to regress. I could very well be wrong, but I just have too many question marks about their quarterback situation to confidently put them as one of the NFC's elite again in 2025.
I'm pretty similar. I could receive the hate for this one too, and I'll ride with it, because I don't know. This was a team that was real tough for me in trying to figure out where I wanted them to go. I have them at 7-10 as well, and it's similar point to Nick. I'm not sure what to expect from JJ McCarthy heading into this year. I was the highest on him out of all of us when we talked about him back in the draft period, But when you come in and you're playing, I just don't see them beating the likes of Philly. I don't see them beating the likes of Detroit. I don't see them and I could be wrong. Like we said, very, very much could be wrong with this, but I just don't see them beating these teams with JJ McCarthy at the helm. Now in year 2, this could be a completely different story. After seeing a year of JJ McCarthy, but for right now, I'm not sure on JJ McCarthy, and that's my big reason why I'm going to put him so low.
I have them going 11-6, finishing 3rd in the division. I think this is the same conversation we had last year. We heading into the season, we thought that the Vikings had one of the worst quarterback rooms in the league, and we saw Sam Darnold go nuts and then win 14 games. So I feel like if Kevin O'Connell can make Sam Darnold an $100 million quarterback, I think he can make JJ McCarthy good enough to, skate by and win some games. But the main reason why I'm so high on them is because of their defense. I think they have one of the best defenses in the league. They were 4th in points per game last year. And I think Brian Flores, he's just so hard to game plan against because of all of the all of the blitzes he runs, all of the packages that he uses. So it's really hard to game plan against him defensively. And I think, they still have Justin Jefferson. They still have TJ Hawkinson. They still have, they have Aaron Jones. They brought in Jordan Mason. So I think if Kevin O'Connell can make Sam Darnold look like a top quarterback, I find it hard to believe that JJ is going to be so bad to where, he's not going to be able to, win a couple games. But I do understand that, JJ, he's a rookie, he hasn't played. And, at Michigan, I didn't think he was anything crazy, but I just trust in Kevin O'Connell's quarterback history and how he can develop players. And I think that, I don't think, JJ McCarthy's going to light the world on fire, but I think they're going to be carried by that defense. And I think JJ's going to do enough for them to, win a decent amount of games. So.
And I can, like I said earlier, I can see that because, like you said, he took Sam Darnold, who the league had given up on, and they were one of the best teams in all of football last year, right? That defense is unreal. Brian Flores can make a difference. And like Nick and I both said, I could see them being an 11-win team. I really could. But I just don't know. I'm a little on the shaky side. I tried doing scenarios to try and get them in that 9-win range, which I think is more realistic than 7 personally. But I don't know. I was struggling to find it.
Yeah, they were a tough one to evaluate last year too. So
yeah, we didn't know anything about.
No, we were very wrong
last year. I think I had them winning 5 games. I
had them winning. I'm doing 5 and whatever.
5 yeah, I think we had 5 or 6 wins. All right, last team in the NFC North, the Chicago Bears. How do you think they're going to be in 2025 with new head coach Ben Johnson?
All right, listen, I understand that they have been the offseason champions the past 3 years, and they've done nothing with it, right? But I look at their offseason in 2025. Hold on, let me pull up the free agency. No, I want 2025, please. I know. No, I got it. I got it right here. You add Joe Tooney in a trade, great guard, right? You add Jonah Jackson in a trade, solid guard. You add Grady Jarrett, good interior defensive line presence. I think Ben Johnson's the real deal. In terms of just football IQ, I think he made that Detroit Lions offense so unbelievably balanced last year. You get year 2 with Caleb Williams. I understand that for his expectations, I would say 2024 is a little disappointing, but he did not play bad. He would get a lot more recognition if Bo Nix and Drake May and Jaden Daniels didn't come in and immediately light the world on fire. So I just, with the schedule that they have, it's a 4th place schedule. Their defense, again, I think is going to be pretty good. Especially with the additions of guys like Grady Jarrett. They don't have an incompetent
Montez Sweat.
Yeah, Montez Sweat on the D line as well. Like, you don't have an incompetent head coach anymore. I think Ben Johnson's gonna hit the ground running. I think you could not throw him into a better situation. And I still have faith in Caleb Williams and those receivers. So I think that Chicago, I think this is the group that gets the Bears back to the playoffs. I think they're my 5 seed, funny enough. Because I have a lot of teams in the NFC that are 10-7. So they just win all the tiebreakers, I guess. They're my 5 seed in the NFC. I think they get back to the playoffs. They finished 2nd in the NFC North. That might be a hot take, and it might blow up in my face for a 2nd straight year because they've been doing this. But I truly think that the Bears have a very good group of players at their disposal.
You want to go, Evan?
Sure, I can. So, Nick, you have them at 10-7?
I
Is that what
do.
you said? All right. I have them at 9-8. I have them just missing the playoffs, right on the cusp. I do think that, obviously this team is, from top to bottom, is a very good team. There's very little holes to a lot of their positions. I just think it all stems on Caleb Williams. From what I've heard in camp, it hasn't been the most positive. But that's not to say that Caleb Williams can't, go out and be who we thought he was going to be when he got drafted. I'm not fully out on him, but I do think this is going to be a big year for him. I think he's going to have a lot of pressure to, make a lot of plays and to win games because, when you have that expectation of being a quote unquote generational talent and you have kind of the up and down rookie season he did last year, and now you bring in Ben Johnson. Now you upgraded the offensive line. That defense is still good. You're bringing Luther Burden to help with the receivers. There's no excuses for him anymore. So I think it hinges on how he plays, and I'm just not 100% confident that he's going to hit the ground running and just be this great quarterback. I think I'm just a little nervous from what I've heard in camp. I know that Ben Johnson's been throwing a lot at him, but I saw yesterday, he ripped him apart because they didn't practice well or something like that. So, but I do think, Ben Johnson obviously is a great offensive coordinator, and I think he's going to be a good head coach, but I just think I'm just not fully in on Caleb Williams. And I think the only reason that I don't have them at a 10 or 11 win team is because I'm just not fully bought into him being the generational guy that he was propped up to be. But he very well could be, and I hope he is, because I think the Bears would be a really fun team if he is. But I'm a little nervous.
I'm gonna have to be in the same boat. I had him at 8 and 9. I just Evan kind of echoed it. I'm a little uncertain. I think along with it, I think he had unrealistic expectations put on him heading into last year. Like, everybody propping up the next Patrick Mahomes. Like, yes, he gives Patrick Mahomes vibes, but you can't put that on a rookie like that.
Yeah.
And Nick, you kind of alluded to it too. It's one of those of man, oh man, if Jaden Daniels, Drake May don't have the seasons that they do, the hype that they bring in, Caleb Williams was solid. This is another team. I didn't really know what to do. I could see them being a 10-win team and making the playoffs. I could see them being an 8-win team and missing, right? I had them at 8 and 9 because of the uncertainty with Caleb Williams as well. But I would not be shocked if they make the playoffs.
All right, let's move on to the NFC West. The LA Rams. How do you think they're going to be in 2025?
LA Rams.
With Matthew Stafford's back injury.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like he's been dealing with injuries like this the past 3 off seasons.
Yeah.
And then he comes back, and the Rams are still one of the best run teams in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
I have them at 11 and 6. I think they win the NFC West again. They are my 4 seed again. But I mean, this team was this close to beating the Philadelphia Eagles on their home turf last year. I think a lot of people forget that. They had like a 2nd and goal at the 6-yard line. They needed a touchdown to win the game. And then Jalen Carter did Jalen Carter things. But I mean, with Sean McVay at the helm, like, you've got one of the most terrifyingly potent offenses in the NFL. Like, especially with Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams side by side, Kyron Williams in the backfield, that defense, they just continue to hit on their draft picks. Jared Verse was in the running for defensive. Did he win Defensive Rookie of the Year last year?
I think so.
Yeah, he won Defensive Rookie of the Year last year. So, like, they've got, he's not quite an Aaron Donald replacement, but he's still a very good player. And I just, like, they have everything that they need to make another Super Bowl run. It's just, will they put it all together, and will Matthew Stafford's body continue to support him as he gets into his late 30s? But yeah, I think that the Puka Devontae Adams combo is going to be disgusting.
Filthy.
It's going to be gross for defenses to try to deal with. And then you've got Kyron Williams in the backfield, who is more than just a touchdown merchant, despite what people say. But yeah, I think they are the team in the NFC West that has both the roster and the coaching staff. And I expect them to be another sleeping giant this year.
Good stuff. I have them 11-6 as my 3 seed this year, and I think this is like a lot to what Nick said. This is a good team. Stafford, if Stafford can stay healthy, they're going to live up to the hype. You can trust Stafford to make the plays. They got a great defense on the other side of the ball. This is a team I feel pretty safe in saying. Right, as long as there's no like major big injuries like they had a couple years ago, like I think they're going to be competing, no doubt in my mind. 11-6, 3 seed in the East, or not in the East, but in the NFC.
I also have them at 11-6 as my 3 seed. I mean, Matthew Stafford's back is a little concerning, but like Nick said, he's had a UCL problem and all this other stuff, and he's been totally fine. Adding Devontae Adams, I think, is huge. I think he's going to be a really nice compliment to Puka Nacua, and that defense is another really young defense, but a really good defense. And you pair up all this stuff with Sean McVay, who's one of the best coaches in the league. It's hard not to see the Rams being good again. And like Nick said, they were on the cusp of beating the Eagles, and I think they improved. So I think they're going to be a really good team, and it really just it hinges on Stafford's health. If the back issue becomes something that's huge, then obviously they're probably not going to hit that 11 or 12 win season. But if he's all right, then they shouldn't skip a beat. They should still be a really good team. All right, what about the San Francisco 49ers? How do you think they're going to be in 2020?
The 49ers. I have them at 9-8. I have them 3rd in the NFC West. They lost a lot. Like a lot this offseason. Hold on, let me thank you, please.
They traded Debo.
They did trade Debo. They lost Tarvarius Ward. He's a Colt now. Leonard Floyd is a Falcon. Who else? I don't care about Josh Dobbs. I know Dre Greenlaw. Yeah, Dre Greenlaw is a Bronco. I know he didn't play a ton last year because he was recovering from his Achilles tear, but that still is a big piece to lose.
Yep.
They did re-sign Fred Warner, so they had to do that.
They lost Hufanga.
Yeah, that's who it was, Hufanga. I think he's also a Bronco.
He is also a Bronco.
So yeah, the Broncos are just poaching all of San Francisco's players. I think that there are very clear roster flaws with the 49ers now, and their main core is getting older. Like Trent Williams is still obviously a Hall of Fame talent, but he's like 38 at this point. Christian McCaffrey, when he's not on the sideline dealing with injury, is still almost 30. I don't know. I think they're in a bit of a transition period. I don't think they're going to like completely fall off the face of the earth because Kyle Shanahan is a good head coach and they still have really good players on that team. But I just like with how deep the NFC is, I just think that their roster flaws are gonna be exposed against some good teams.
Evan?
I have them going 8-9. I think, yeah, they lost a lot in the offseason, and I think they already have a lot of injuries piling up, at least on offense. Brandon Ayuk's coming back from his knee injury. Juwan Jennings is hurt. Demarcus Robinson suspended. So really, it's George Kittle, Ricky Pearsall, and nobody else. So they did just trade for Brian Robinson, which I guess is a good insurance back in case CMC gets hurt. But I just think this team, like Nick said, they're just getting old. They lost a lot of talent. And I just think that their window of being, in that upper echelon of NFC contenders is closed just because of the age and, how just kind of how this team is right now. But we did see with Brock Purdy, when he doesn't have Christian McCaffrey, when he doesn't have all these elite weapons, he does tend to struggle. So if for some reason, George Kittle misses time or Christian McCaffrey misses time, I'm not guaranteeing that Brock Purdy's just going to be a really good, really good. We saw him kind of falter a little bit. Granted, that entire team was hurt, so it's not entirely his fault, but so I do think that plays a role. But yeah, I just think with them losing so much, it's hard for them to really compete in a really deep NFC.
I have them 9-8, missing the playoffs. I think that they are. You guys alluded to it. They've lost so much this offseason. It's kind of hard for them to. I think they'll compete, like you said. I don't think they're going to completely nosedive, but there's a lot of regression that's going to take place here. They are the second team out for me, but I think it's a transition period. They're going to have to figure some of that stuff out. So,
all right, moving on to Seattle Seahawks. How do you think they're going to be in 2025?
They want me to start with Seattle?
I can go. I'll take this one. I have them at 9-8, making it in. I think this is. This was one of them I was also a little unsure about. We know how Sam Darnold played last year, but I don't know if that translates this year, if that makes sense. I think they have a solid team all around. That can be the number 2 in this, in this division. The addition of Cooper Kupp helps with the losses of DK and Tyler Lockett, but I just think their defense is gonna be pretty solid. But I think they're a 9-8 team. I think that 9-8, and I have them in.
Hold on. Give me a second. I have them at 10-7, and I have them missing the playoffs. So I think that people are sleeping on Seattle, to be full on honest with you. They look wildly different than they did in 2024 with Sam Darnold coming in and Cooper Kupp coming in for Geno Smith, DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett. But I don't think everyone's like, oh, Sam Darnold's situation is worse than it was in Minnesota. Yeah, that is true, but it's not a bad situation for him to be in. No. You still got Cooper Kupp. You still got Jackson Smith and Jigba, who he's a stud. Borderline. Was he like top 10 in receiving yards in the NFL last year? I might be losing my mind. I might be misremembering that, but he's very good. He's a very good young receiver.
1,100 yards. So.
Okay, so not
maybe close.
Yeah, 100 catches, 1,130 yards, 26 touchdowns. He is still only 23, so I expect him to only get better. The big thing for me is I think their defense is going to be really good. They've got a lot of young pieces. They were top 6 in the NFL in a lot of major categories outside of points for last season. And I think Mike McDonald is one of the best defensive head coaches in the NFL. And then you've got a backfield of K9 and Zach Charbonnet. That's good. The big problem with Seattle last year was their offensive line was injured to crap. Like, it got decimated with injuries. If they get any help on the offensive line, I think it will offset the slight step back in offensive production that I expect from Sam Darnold and just a whole new system. So yeah, I think they go 10-7, but once again, they missed the playoffs because the NFC is very, very deep. If that happens again, I think Seahawks fans might actually drink their sorrows away. I don't know how you can win 10 games back-to-back years and miss the playoffs in both seasons. But we'll see what happens. Welcome, Zach.
Hello.
Nice of you to join us. All right. I have the Seahawks at 8-9. I think the defense is going to be really good, but offensively, I am not sure. I think they downgraded at quarterback with Sam Darnold. I think they downgraded at wide receiver going from DK to Cooper Kupp. And that offensive line, I still don't think is that great. They did bring in Gray Zabel, but I'm in the camp of I don't know how Darnold's going to be without Kevin O'Connell, and I don't think Cooper Kupp's very good anymore. So I think it's just really JSN, and then after him you have Kupp, who's outside of that 2021 season hasn't played a fully healthy season, and then you have MVS, Torrey Horton, and Jake Bobo. And then their starting tight end is Elijah Arroyo, who's a rookie. So I don't think that this offense is going to be very good. They did get a new offensive coordinator, which I think will help. And I do think that they have a good running tandem in Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. But I just think that they downgraded in a lot of positions offensively. And so I think that's going to hurt them, especially in, a really deep NFC. Zach, do you want to chip in on the Seahawks? I think we see around the same. I think we think the same of them roughly.
Where the heck are the Seahawks at? Here they are. I have the Seahawks going 7-10. I don't think this is a very good football team for all the reasons that Evan just said. I'm not sold on Sam Darnold without Kevin O'Connell. I don't think that. I mean, JSN's really good, and I still think Cooper Kupp can play if he's healthy. But I just don't think that that's going to be enough. I just don't really like this team. This is a really weirdly assembled football team, and I don't think they're going to be very good. So 7-10.
All right, moving on to the Arizona Cardinals. How do you guys think they're going to be in 2025?
They get a 6-11 record. They are one of the most irrelevant teams in the entire NFL. And I expect that to continue in 2025. I don't have faith in Kyler Murray these days. I feel like we know what he is. And I also feel like if he was playing in a bigger market, he'd get a lot more crap than he does. But this is year 7 or 8 of Kyler Murray being the starting quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals. He has not won a single playoff game. He's only made the playoffs one time, in fact. Which I know the Cardinals are a bit of a dysfunctional mess, but at some point, some of the blame has to be put on the players. Trey McBride's going to be a stud again, and hopefully they actually throw to Marvin Harrison Jr. from the start of the year to the end of the year. But I still have questions about that defense. I still have questions about Jonathan Gannon as their head coach. I don't have faith in Kyler Murray these days in terms of being a legitimate upper echelon quarterback at the NFL level. And another irrelevant season in the books for the Cardinals.
I'm right there with you. I got them at 5-12. I just don't think they're going to be very good. That I hope to see a leap from Marv this year, but there's really not much to be confident in outside of Trey McBride and hopefully Marvin Harrison Jr. So
I've got the Cardinals at 3-14. I think this team is dog crap. I don't think Kyler Murray's very good. Marvin Harrison's a stud, but I don't think, once again, Kyler Murray, I don't think he's very good because he just doesn't throw the ball to a monstrous wideout receiver. I'm hoping to see that change this year, but I don't think the Cardinals are any good. I think this team is hot garbage, to be honest with you. They got Marv. They've got Trey McBride. I've heard good things about Trey Benson, so he might, make a leap this year with James Conner being like 30. So I'm expecting to see more of Trey McBride, but I just don't think this team has anything outside of that. I don't really think. I don't really know if their O line's any good. I know they got the guy from Ohio State at tackle, but the other 4 positions I think are questionable. And I probably can't even name you a guy they have on defense. So I would agree with Nick that this is probably the most irrelevant team in the entire NFL, next to the New Orleans Saints. And I think this team is terrible. So, yeah.
I can name you about 3 guys on the defense for sure. You remember Josh Sweat?
I recognize
he's
that
their
name.
Josh
big
Sweat played for the
off-season
Eagles.
addition.
Yep.
Buda Baker
Okay, yeah, Buda Baker, yeah.
and Calais Campbell.
Didn't
Oh, I
Buda
didn't even know he played
Baker-
for the Cardinals still.
Yeah, didn't Buda Baker request a trade like 3 years ago?
Yeah, and then they just didn't trade him.
Yeah.
Hey, Baron Browning is on this team.
This is just a
Baron
team.
Browning, Buckeye legend.
This is a team that you just forget exists.
Hey,
Yeah.
former member of the Bengals is on this team, Akeem Davis Gaither.
Oh, real superstar there.
That's a real game changer.
Yeah. I have the Cardinals going 5-12, mainly because they're starting Jonah Williams at right tackle. No, that obviously is not good. Being a Bengals fan, we know how terrible he is. But yeah, I just don't trust Kyler Murray. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to read into one play, but that one pick that he threw in the preseason was legitimately horrible. But yeah, I mean, he has Marvin Harrison. They didn't throw him the ball. Outside of that, it's Micah Wilson and Zay Jones. So that's absolutely nothing. James Conner, I think, is still a viable back. And Trey McBride obviously is one of the best tight ends in the league. They did upgrade a little bit on defense. Bringing in Josh Sweat, I think is going to be big. They drafted Will Johnson. If he can be healthy, I think he could be a steal. But yeah, I mean, their linebackers suck. The rest of that defensive line outside of Josh Sweat sucks. And the offensive line outside of Paris Johnson is, I don't recognize any of the names except Jonah Williams, but for the wrong reasons. So, yeah, they're not going to be a very good team. So, all right, let's move to the NFC South. Let's start off with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. How do you guys think they're going to be?
I'm pretty high on the Buccaneers this year. I think the Buccaneers are a really good team. Baker Mayfield is legit. They're pretty much just returning everybody they had last year, as far as I know, and they added Igbuka. So I think this is going to be a really good football team. I have them at 12-5, and I have them winning the South.
I have them at 11-6. Also winning the NFC South. They are my 3 seed in the NFC. I just love the culture that they have in Tampa. I think that they've definitely gone past the point of being a joke of a franchise, despite, Tom Brady winning them a Super Bowl. Baker Mayfield has completely revitalized his career. He was a top 5 quarterback in many statistical categories last year, which is insane to think about. And then you add a guy like Igbuka. We all know how good a guy like Emeka Igbuka is. And that trio that they have with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans is going to be very difficult for teams to defend. Bucky Irving, I think, is going to take a big leap in his second year in the NFL. And, you've still got guys like Vita Vea, Tristan Wirfs, I believe. Wait, no. I might be losing my mind. I don't know if that's...
Tristan Wirfs is on me.
He's still a Buck? Okay, I was thinking of something else. Okay. Tristan Wirfs, stud tackle. Their biggest weakness to me is still their head coach. But I don't think that Todd Bowles is bad. Yeah, I think they go 11-6. I think they win the division once again. And yeah, I think they're a good team.
I have them at 10-7. They're my 4 seed. They win the NFC South. And I mean, I think Baker going there was the best thing that could have ever happened to him. Right?
Yeah.
That has helped them out tremendously. Their defense, they have, like you brought up, Vita Vea as a stud. When you have a guy that can clog the hole up the middle like him, you're sitting pretty nice
Offensively, if they can, I just sit here and I just imagine an offense geared around the fact that you have Bucky Irving, Mike Evans, Emeka Egbuka, and then once Chris Godwin is healthy, that is unreal. That is an unreal offense to deal with. I feel very confident in this team. I think that they're going to have a solid year. Potentially could make a playoff push. Like they did.
They got unlucky with the draw last year when they played Washington. I think all of us were like, the winner of that game could cause some like serious damage in the NFC.
I agree.
Because both teams were very good. It's just that Jaden Daniels and the Commanders came out on top. They won.
Yep.
They won it off a game-winning field goal, yeah?
Yes.
I
think so.
So that just shows how close those teams were in terms of quality.
Yeah. I have the Bucks going 11-6, winning the NFC South. Yeah, I think obviously Baker's solidified himself as a top 10 quarterback. Bucky Irving was phenomenal his rookie year. You still have Mike Evans. Jalen McMillan and Chris Godwin will be out for a little bit, which does hurt, but Emeka Egbuka, all I've heard is positive things. And, being Ohio State fans, we know how good he is. Cade Otton was pretty good last year. That offensive line isn't too bad. The defense still has a lot of good pieces. Kalijah Cansey, Vita Vea, Levante David. They brought in Hassan Reddick, Antoine Winfield Jr., so they still have a lot of good players there. I am curious to see how the offense looks without Liam Cohen, and if, Liam Cohen was a big reason why, Baker had a lot of success and everything. So I'm interested to see how the offense looks without him, but I still think this team is really good, and obviously I have them winning 11 games, so I think they're going to be a pretty fun team. All right, what about the Atlanta Falcons? How do you guys think they're going to be?
So I kind of made a mistake earlier. I do not have the Seahawks in the playoffs. The Falcons are in as my 7th seed. I have them going 9-8. So I wanted to make a quick adjustment on that, and make sure I said that. But I think we could see a pickup from Michael Penix this year. I'm excited to see what happens. Maybe they actually get Kyle Pitts the ball. I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. But when you have
hopes they do.
Yeah, Zach hopes they do.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
But when you have the likes on offense of Bijan Robinson, Drake London, the talent is there for Kyle Pitts to do something. But I think like the guy like Drake London takes a leap this year. I think he could have one of the best years. Going out and getting a guy like Leonard Floyd does make a big difference in this defense, right? I think this is a team that can make the playoffs. I don't know if they'll be that like big of a push into the playoffs, but I think they can make it in. So I have them at 9-8.
Fair. I have the Falcons at 10-7. I think they're a decent team. They are my 7 seed in the playoffs. Yeah, I think that they're a pretty solid team. I'm interested to see how Michael Penix does. I think he came in and played decently last year. And I mean, to be truthfully honest with you, I think this Falcons squad was on pace last year to probably make the playoffs until Kirk Cousins got hurt because he was playing really well. And I think that they pretty much are running it back. So, we'll see. I think a lot of it depends on how Michael Penix plays. Because, like I said, I've said it before, to be truthfully honest with you, I'm still not sold on him as the guy right now. I still think Kirk Cousins can play football. I think the only reason he went downhill last year is because he literally was playing injured. So I think that it's just, we're going to have to just see how Michael Penix can do. But I think the team around the quarterback position is still pretty solid. It's the same team they had last year. So I think this will be a team that sneaks into the playoffs, and I don't really think they're going to do much more than that, but I think that they will probably they got a shot at getting in at the 7th seed.
I have the Atlanta Falcons at 8-9 in the NFC South. They finished 2nd in the division. They do have very good pieces, obviously. Bijan Robinson, Drake London, a guy like A.J. Terrell and Jesse Bates on the defensive side of the ball. In theory, they fixed their pass rush by adding a guy like Leonard Floyd. They also got Matt Judon, but they're both 33 actually. So they're both,
And James Pierce.
yeah, and James Pierce as well. So in theory, they fixed their pass rush, which was their very obviously number one concern last year. But Michael Penix is still in essence a rookie. He played the last 3 games of last year, and he had some solid moments. He made some good throws, but I don't really think he lit the world on fire. So it's still kind of up in the air for what he's going to bring to the table in Atlanta. If he is the real deal, I could see them, winning 10 or 11 games and being a playoff team in the NFC for sure. Their roster is very top heavy. Their players are very good. Their best players are very good, let me clarify. But outside of that, I don't think they have a ton of substance outside of their very top end guys. So I think they're a year or so away from potentially being a playoff team again in the NFC. But if Michael Penix is the real deal, I think they could sneak in.
Yeah, I have them at 9-8. I think Penix is going to be pretty good. I liked what I saw from him last year. And I think, having a full training camp and, kind of getting that offense down more, I think is going to be good. And I mean, even if, he doesn't pan out, I still think like what Zach said, that Kirk Cousins is a viable option. And then you have Bijan Robinson, who obviously is one of the best running backs in the league. Drake London, who was phenomenal last year. And then Darnell Mooney, who I thought was underrated last year as a wide receiver too. And we hope that Kyle Pitts can be good. And that offensive line is still really good. I like the offensive line. Obviously, that secondary with Jesse Bates, AJ Terrell, Mike Hughes is pretty solid. But yeah, the big thing is, that defensive line and the pass rush. But they did, they added Leonard Floyd, they added James Pierce, Jalen Walker in the draft. And so I think that they have some guys that, could help that, but that's definitely one of their big weaknesses. But yeah, I think I like their coaching staff, and I like a lot of their players offensively. So I think they're going to be pretty good, but I have them just slightly missing the playoffs at 9-8. So, all right, moving on to Carolina Panthers. How do you think they're going to be in 2025?
I have the Panthers at 6-10. I don't really see, too much of an improvement here yet. I don't know. I don't think they really have a lot going for them outside of maybe a Bryce Young resurgence. And then I think Tet's really good. But, we saw Bryce Young take a little bit of a step up at the end of the year last year. But, I'm still not sold on Bryce Young. And I don't think they really have anything going for him outside of that. Chuba Hubbard's solid, but I don't really like this team, so I got 6-10.
I'm right there with you. I have them at 5-12. There's parts to this team that I like. I still think there's hope for guys like J.C. Horn, for example, who is a stud coming out. It was South Carolina, right? If I'm remembering right. I think there's still some pieces. I think it's definitely going to be an improvement from last year, and I could see them winning more than 5 games. But they're a tough team for me to pick because I think they do take a step this year, but I don't know if it's really that big of a step. I think Tet's going to have an amazing year. I'm super high on Tet, but it's just going to be a matter if Bryce can take that step and go from there.
I have the Panthers at 7-10, third in the NFC South. Here's what I'm gonna say. I think a lot of people are just assuming that Bryce Young is going to take another step. But I think a lot of people forget that he was the number 1 overall pick in 2023. And he, even with him having a good last, month of the season last year, has not lived up to the hype of a first overall pick through 2 seasons. If he takes a step back or even just doesn't take a step forward, I think the Panthers could look at moving off of him, to be truthfully honest with you. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that he was the number 1 overall pick for a reason. I do think he's going to improve in 2025. But It's a very big question mark. I don't think that's going to happen because I did think he played legitimately well at the back end of last season, and adding a guy like Ted, I think they're going to figure some stuff out on the offensive side of the ball. But I just wanted to put that out there. Bryce Young's future is not 100% secure, in my opinion. But I think he'll step up, and it'll get the Panthers a few extra wins, but in particular on defense, there's still a lot of problems that need to be addressed. So they're 7-10. They take a step forward, but I still don't think they're a true contender to be a playoff team in the NFC quite yet.
Yeah, I have the Panthers at 5-12. I'm with Nick. I don't know if Bryce Young's gonna like take another leap, but I think he showed a decent amount last year that he bought himself another year. Chuba Hubbard was 1,000-yard runner last year. Tet was obviously a top 5 pick. And I think Tet's gonna be pretty good. Then after that, it's Adam Thielen, who's old. Xavier Legette, who wasn't much in his rookie year. The offensive line's still decent. Defensively, Derek Brown's going to be healthy, which was big. He was out off season last year. But really outside of that, there's not much. So, yeah, they're not going to be that great of a team. So I have them at 5-12. All right, let's move on to the last team in the NFC, the New Orleans Saints. We don't have to spend a whole lot of time on this. How do you think they're going to be?
Surprisingly, I don't have them as the worst team in football.
What?
They are one game ahead of the Giants at 3-14.
I have them at 2-15. They are my worst team in football this season. I don't see a positive on this.
No,
team.
I agree.
Like I really don't.
Did you see Tyler Shaw throw that pick 6 against Chargers the other day?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness gracious.
So, yeah, there's really not much to say here about this Saints team. There is not a single bright spot here, like Nick said. There are no positives on this team. They are my worst team in football, and I have them at 0-17.
I knew you were going to do that.
It's the Weaver special. He always
has
team
one
to
team to go
game.
0-17.
I do. Every
He
year I have
does this
one
year.
team that goes completely defeated. So, yeah, this year...
One of these years it's going to hit.
Yeah, this year my completely defeated team is the Saints. I think this team is going to be one of the worst football teams that has ever been assembled by mankind.
Yeah, I have the Saints being 2-15. I have them as my worst team, so they will be in the Arch Manning sweepstakes or Gary Nussmeier sweepstakes.
Or Cade Klubnik. I like Cade.
Or Cade
Or
Klubnik.
Cade Klubnik sweepstakes.
Quarterback sweepstakes. Yeah, I legitimately struggled finding games that they could win. There was a few scenarios where I landed at when I was just quickly going through, I landed at 0-17. So,
we should have had 2 guys on this podcast saying the Saints would go 0-17.
That would have been funny. But yeah, I mean, Tyler Shuck and Spencer Rattler are the quarterbacks. That's absolutely nothing. And then yeah, I'm not even gonna say anything else. They don't have a quarterback,
and all their good players are old. Like Cam Jordan is old. Alvin Kamara is old. If Chris Olave, when he's not in the hospital,
I know.
Well, maybe
now
that Derek Carr isn't there,
in the hospital.
Well, now he's going to have quarterbacks not even getting him the ball. He's going to throw it 5 yards short of him. So
This
free Chris Olave, bro. We
This
have
is-
said for a few seasons that the Saints have just kicked the can down the curb, and there's going to be a year or two where they're genuinely one of the worst teams in the NFL. It starts this year.
It's happening.
It's happening now.
Yeah,
They are going to go 0-17.
that would be so funny. All right, so that wraps up the NFC. Let's move on to the AFC. What division in the AFC should we start with?
Let's do the AFC South because,
yeah, the South is terrible.
the South sucks. Okay,
Nick, are we still doing good on time?
we're fine.
It's
It's just after
2 o'clock.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the AFC. We're going to start with the AFC South. Nick, should we start with the Colts or should we start with another team?
I don't care, bro. I really
Let's start with the Colts. Get them out of the way.
Okay.
All right, we'll
All right,
get the
we'll
Colts
start with
out
the
of the way.
Colts.
I have
Mr.
them
Colts fan.
at 7-10. That I'm gonna go on a bit of a rant here.
All right.
I
Go for it.
truly have no idea what the Indianapolis Colts are doing in 2025. I think they're in contention for the most poorly ran franchise in the entire NFL. I made this prediction thinking that Anthony Richardson was still going to be the starter because it makes sense, right? It makes sense to me. I feel like it makes sense to most people that you draft a project quarterback 3 years ago with the 4th overall pick and you get him time to improve himself on the NFL field. And then not even 3 years into the project quarterback, you're abandoning the project. Like what did you think this was? Like paving a new highway? No, you're building a bridge here, okay? And you knew this going into that. You said this when you drafted him. And now you're giving up on a 20. He's still the youngest quarterback in the NFL. Like it makes no sense to me. He's younger than literally everyone, and you're giving up on him. And you pay $14 million for Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones isn't going to do anything. Okay? He's going to do nothing. Why didn't you look at him overthrowing a wide open Tyler Warren by like 5 yards, and you're like, no, this is the guy I want running our offense. Like, it makes no sense to me. They're actively punting the year. Like, they're punting the season. They don't care.
I do just want to interject one thing, though. I don't think AR would have did any better for him, to be honest with you. I think AR is the worst quarterback I've ever seen play the game.
I agree with you,
Okay.
but what's even the point of, like, Daniel Jones has a 22-44-1 record as a starter in the NFL. He is 3-13 over his last 16 games starting. He sucks. He's terrible. Okay?
These are your 2 worst quarterbacks in the league, for sure.
Probably. You could make an argument. So it's like you're either driving with a Prius or driving with a Lambo that has no tread on the tires. Okay? I want to be in the Lambo.
Far.
Okay? I want to be in the Lambo. Okay? I don't want to be in the Prius. I don't care about the Prius. I don't care that he won a playoff game. I really don't. I could not care less. I want them to go freaking 2-15 this year. I want them to just be one of the worst teams in the NFL. I want them to be a clown show. At least this means Steichen and Ballard are gone sooner than later, bro. Oh, my Lord. They're a circus. They're a complete circus, dude. They have no idea what they're doing.
So you have them at 7-10, huh?
Yes.
Okay, I have them at 5-12.
That's completely valid of you. I think
I almost had them at 4-13.
that's so real. I do think that I didn't talk about this. I do think the additions of Cam Bynum and Charvarius Ward are good. Like, I think their secondary is going to be a lot better than it was last year. I think their defense could actually be pretty solid. And a guy like Jonathan Taylor in the backfield, like, they can say a run first team. Like, he's still a stud. But they lost a lot on the offensive line, and they don't have a quarterback who can throw a football. So that's kind of where I'm at with them.
I've got them at 5-12. This team is terrible. They have the 2 worst quarterbacks in the NFL. Either way you go, they're both unplayable. I mean, I don't even think that Anthony Richardson's a Lambo. I think if anything, he's maybe a Camaro.
No. You saw the throw he had against Houston week 1. He has that in his locker. He's a Lambo. He just has no tread on the tires.
I've also seen Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen throw like 90-yard bombs on the run. I've seen Joe Burrow throw a ball in midair for a touchdown.
We're not talking about that. All right?
Not really super impressed by him flicking a ball 50 yards or whatever it was when I see other quarterbacks.
It was 70 yards in the air. It was 70 air yards.
You can watch Mahomes and Allen do that.
On what regular basis?
I'm just saying, I don't think Anthony Richardson is anything, to be honest with you. I think the only reason he was even drafted at 4 is because he's 6'5", 250 pounds.
For after
he runs like
year,
a 4.4.
When the Colts move on from him and he goes to like the Rams or a team that actually knows how to develop players and he turns into a demon. and I'm
I
gonna
just
cry.
don't think that's going to ever
I'm gonna
happen.
cry. I'm gonna bawl my eyes out.
I don't think, Doucette was saying this, and I think I'm on his side with it too. Even when they drafted him, I don't think he's ever been good. He wasn't very good at Florida. I guarantee you the only reason that he was drafted number 4 is because he is 6'5", 250 pounds, and runs a 4.4. That's great, but that doesn't translate to the football field. I mean, I don't care how big or tall or fast you are. If you can't play football, then just because you're big and tall doesn't mean you're a good football player. So, and Anthony Richardson is a very bad football player. And I don't think that Daniel Jones is any better, honestly. I think that,
So if you know that they both suck, play the younger one.
I'm not disagreeing with you on this, but I am really, really, really happy that they chose Daniel Jones because it is really funny. And also, I said from the day they signed Daniel Jones.
You did say from the day they signed Daniel Jones that he was going to be the starting quarterback.
Because, yeah, I did. I
don't even think you beat him out. He was not. AR was better in training camp and in the preseason. He didn't win anything.
Well, they chose him, so he won the job and beat him out.
They're going to choose. Oh, my Lord. They don't know what they're doing, bro. They really don't.
At least you don't have it as bad as the Bengals front office who doesn't want to pay
not
the
even
players.
remotely true.
That you can't say that.
That's not even remotely
true. I can say that. I can't.
We'll talk about the Bengals later.
As poorly run as the Bengals are, the Colts are worse.
In the year of our Lord 2025.
We don't want to start this conversation. This will be a 30-minute rant that we've done.
All right, the Colts are terrible. Both their quarterbacks, they're the 2 worst quarterbacks in the NFL. This is going to be a team that is firmly in the quarterback sweepstakes next year. They're 5-12, last in the division. This team
last. All right.
I have the Colts going 6-11. The team outside of quarterback is actually good. But like we've talked about, the quarterback situation is as bad as you can get. There was, I don't know if you saw the clip of like the Giants last preseason game. Like there is genuine joy in that locker room
happiness
because Daniel Jones is no longer there. And yeah, I mean, Daniel Jones, like Nick said, is terrible and has never really won anything except one playoff game. Fluke. Anthony Richardson is also bad, but is younger. So yeah, they're gonna be, if they had a average quarterback, they would probably be a perennial playoff team, but they have the worst 2 quarterbacks in it. Worst 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. I think Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shuck give a run for their money. So they're all very bad. So yeah, that's a big reason why the Colts are just not going to have a good season. All right, let's move to the Houston Texans. They got CJ Stroud down there. How do you think they're going to be in 2025?
I'm going to just say this. I think it's a genuine competition between the Houston Texans and the Jaguars for the spot. And it's not even close. Titans don't come close. I am very concerned about the Texans, but I still have them going 10-7. Offensive line is terrible.
It got worse.
What'd you say?
It got worse. They traded their best offensive line.
I know. That's the big concern I have. I think their defense is going to get them in games, and because they're in the AFC South, they have a better chance of making the playoffs. But I genuinely am concerned. I could see them not making the playoffs. I genuinely could. I have them at 10-7, making the playoffs as a 4 seed. But I just hope that like CJ Stroud doesn't have the, I hope CJ Stroud doesn't get killed, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for the Texans, I've got the Texans at 10-7. I have them narrowly winning the division over the Jags. And yeah, I agree with what Joel said. It's really just either the Texans or the Jags, in my personal opinion. I think both of these teams are decent squads. I think the Texans are probably, to be honest with you, worse from top to bottom than the Jags are. But I think that CJ Stroud kind of really, really helps them. And I think D'Amico Ryans is a very good head coach still. I just think their offensive line is horrible, and I don't really see the vision there. But I do like CJ Stroud a lot. Nico Collins is a stud. I think that Jaden Higgins is going to be pretty good. Additional weapon for him. So I do still like this Texans team, just not as much as I have in the past. But I've got them at 10-7, just pretty much because of CJ Stroud.
I am going to be different. I have the Texans at 8-9. I do not think they win the AFC South this year. Here's the thing. CJ Stroud already took a step back last year because he had much less time in the pocket, and now I think he's going to have even less time in the pocket to, like, actually operate the offense. Plus, like, no Tank Dell for the entirety of this year. They drafted Jaden Higgins, but he's a rookie. It's going to take him time to get adjusted. And I think they won a lot of close, fluky games early on in the year. And then by the time the end of the season came around, when they played a good team, they could not do anything. Until they played the Chargers, and they beat the Chargers in a playoff game. But, the Ravens game at home on Christmas Day, they could not move the ball at all because their offensive line was a complete disaster. I expect more of the same this year. And like we said, it was between the Texans or the Jags for who wins this crapshoot of a division. And there's always like 4 teams that swap out on the playoffs from year to year. I'll be different. I think the Texans will be one of them purely because of their O-line problems, and they'll get less lucky in close games this year. So 8-9, second in the division for me.
That is very realistic. I agree.
I have the Texans at 9-8. That defense is phenomenal. It's one of the better ones in the league. But yeah, the offensive line got worse, and it was already terrible. But I like D'Amico Ryans. I think that I still like CJ Stroud, even if he struggled last year. Joe Mixon is hurt, which isn't good. But they have Nick Chubb, who's not as good as he once was. But wide receiver wise, they have Nico Collins, who's still his top 10 receiver. They got Christian Kirk, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, still Dalton Schultz. So really, outside of the offensive line, it's not too bad. But yeah, I have them 9-8. I do have them winning the division, and being the fourth seed in the playoffs. All right, let's move on to Jacksonville. New head coach Liam Cohen. How do you think he's going to do in his first season in Jacksonville?
This is a more fun one, I think.
Yeah, I'll start with the Jags because I think I'm the only one here that actually has them winning the division. I have them going 9-8. They're my 4 seed. I truthfully don't think this is a great team. But I do love the addition of Travis Hunter, and I think Liam Cohen is going to unlock a lot for Trevor Lawrence in terms of scheme. I also really like Brian Thomas Jr. I think he's not getting enough love. I think he's a sleeper for Offensive Player of the Year. If Travis Hunter plays a lot more defensively than I think people are predicting him to. ETN did nothing, but I still think he's a solid back. But he's got to have some semblance of production this year. They've got good defensive pieces, obviously. A guy like Josh Hines-Allen and company, Travis Hunter, if he plays defense. He's kind of been just proving critics wrong his entire career. So we'll see if everyone's like, oh, he's not going to be able to play both positions in the NFL. They said that in college too, and look what he did. So it's still to be determined. I think Travis Hunter was the best player in the last draft class. It's just that position of need for a team like Tennessee. They had to go with a guy like Cam Ward. But I think the Jags got the best player in the draft class last year in Travis Hunter. I love Liam Cohen. I still think Trevor Lawrence is at worst above average in terms of talent. And like we know what he's capable of doing. I just, with all the other problems that teams in the division have, I think the Jags will take advantage this year and end Houston's streak of division titles.
I had them at 9-8. Like it literally came down to one game. If they beat the Texans one game this year, they're in for me. I had it where they didn't, but I could definitely see it. I think, like you said, I'm extremely high on Brian Thomas Jr. I'm glad that you brought that up.
I think he is in contention for could be offensive player of the year. But we will have to wait and see.
I've got the Jags at
Um,
9-8. I think we all probably have them at the same record then. I have them, one game behind the Texans. I think that, to be truthfully honest with you, I think that if I had to go back through and re-pick these picks, I would probably have taken the Jags over the Texans for the division, just because I've always been high on Trevor Lawrence and the Jags, and they haven't, really came through on that. But I think that there's reason once again to be high on him. Liam Cohen did a masterpiece with Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers. I think Trevor Lawrence is a lot more talented than Baker Mayfield. I think people also get lost, or they lose, in their minds, the fact that Trevor Lawrence is only like 25. Trevor Lawrence is a very young quarterback still. He's already been to a divisional playoff round. He has had some success in his career, and he's only like 25 years old. And he's also had dog crap to work with, whether it be coaching staff or team throughout most of his career. So I'm still high on Trevor Lawrence. I think he's still a pretty good player. I think that there is still a chance that he can come through and be that, first overall pick type of guy that the Jags need. I think Brian Thomas is a stud. Travis Hunter, I like him, but he's just such a wild card because you don't know what he's going to do in the NFL position wise. I think their defense is serviceable, right? Yeah, they have Josh Hines Allen. He's pretty good. I mean, it's a serviceable defense. Yeah, I mean, running back wise, Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne is a solid backfield. I think, getting a good offensive minded head coach in there. I don't know. I think there's a lot of stuff to be happy about with this Jags team going into the year. So if I had to go back and repick it, I would have the Jags at 10-7 and the Texans at 9-8. But because I didn't do that, for the sake of just sticking true to what I have down, I got the Jags at 9-8, second in the division.
I love how we always and we're forgetting to point out a name and Travion Walker.
Oh yeah,
first rounder, first overall.
Underrated.
I completely forget
He's
that
a stud.
that guy went first overall.
He's still a stud though too. Is the crazy thing.
Yeah, he's a pretty good player.
Yeah, he's had back-to-back 10 sack seasons. I have the Jags at 9-8, second in the division, much like everybody else. Yeah, I am not as high on Trevor Lawrence. I am kind of getting burnt out on him. I think he's been okay the last 2 years. And so I think if he has another okay season with Brian Thomas, Travis Hunter, and an offensive-minded head coach, I think that he's just going to be an average quarterback, and not really live up to the hype that was surrounding him when he was first drafted. So that's why I don't have them higher, just because I'm not fully bought into that. Trevor Lawrence is still is still like a really good quarterback. I think he still gets the job done, is still decent, but. Travis Etienne was garbage last year, so you're hoping that Liam Cohen can revitalize his career. Travis Hunter, I obviously love Travis Hunter. He's a stud, but I'm very curious to see how he plays. If he's more on the defense, if he's more on the offense. I'm interested to see how Liam Cohen kind of deals with that. The defense, like Zach said, I agree. It's okay. It's nothing crazy. They got Josh Hines Allen, Trayvon Walker, Devin Lloyd, Tyson Campbell. So they have pieces, but it's not insane. So yeah, I think they're a 9-8 team. I think that Liam Cohen definitely is an upgrade over Doug Peterson, and we'll see, if he can bring the dynamic offense that he brought to Tampa Bay over, to Jacksonville. So we'll see. But I got them at 9-8, second in the division. All right, last team in the NFC South, or AFC South, excuse me. The Tennessee Titans had the number 1 overall pick last year and drafted Cam Ward. How do you think they're going to be this year?
I have them at 5-12. I think I really don't know. I could see them having a better record than the Colts. I'm not going to lie.
I don't think I'm crazy for thinking that. We'll see what Cam Ward can do. I'm excited to see what he can do. I think Calvin Ridley is going to get force-fed the ball for one. I'm not sure how I feel about Tony Pollard. They still have the likes of Jeffrey Simmons on that defense. I'm interested to see what this team does. I don't think they're going to be very good, though. I'm going to keep it at 5-12.
I've got the Titans at 6-11. I think that Cam Ward could end up being a pretty decent quarterback. They got some guys. I mean, I think Calvin Ridley is still decent. The Elick whatever guy I've heard good things about. Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears I think is a pretty good running back duo. I mean, they got some guys, at least offensively. And I think Cam Ward can end up being a pretty solid quarterback. I mean, he's been doing decently, I think, throughout training camp and preseason. So, I think there's a little bit more of a future here, maybe than there was last year, I guess. I still have them not being good, but I do have them being a game ahead of the Colts.
I like how you had to point that out. That's very funny to me. I have the Titans at 6-11. I think that Cam Ward is going to be very good, and the Titans don't have much around him. So I think they're going to be 6-11 because of Cam Ward. And I think they'll lay the foundations for a new era of Tennessee football come, 2027 or 2028 or so. I think Cam Ward is very good. I have never seen a quarterback be picked first overall and talked about as little as Cam Ward this entire offseason. It makes no sense to me. But yeah, I think Cam Ward's going to be very good. I think he's the only quarterback really in this draft class that I could say that he could be a pretty good NFL quarterback going into this. But yeah, I think that they'll lay the foundation for a new era of Titans football this year. They just don't have much outside of Cam Ward.
I have the Titans going 5-12. Outside of Cam Ward, it's really not much. You have Calvin Ridley, who I like. Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears are okay running backs. Tyler Lockett is old and sucks. Van Jefferson sucks. They did upgrade potentially the offensive line, but I think they overpaid for Dan Moore. They brought in Kevin Zeitler. This team still isn't great. And we'll see how Cam Ward does, year one, Brian Callahan, year two for him, year one for Cam Ward. So we'll see how that pans out. But yeah, they're not going to be a very good team. So I have them at 5-12. All right, what division we want to do next?
Want me to spin the wheel?
Yeah, now we're getting the divisions that are actually interesting.
Spinning the wheel as we speak. The West.
All right.
AFC West.
AFC West. Let's start with the Las Vegas Raiders. They got new head coach Pete Carroll, new quarterback Geno Smith, new running back in Ashton Jeanty. How do you guys think that the Raiders are going to be in 2025?
I have the Las Vegas Raiders at 8-9. They, much like the city of Las Vegas, have very flashy, stars with Max Crosby and Ashton Jeanty and I think Geno Smith and getting Pete Carroll back. Brock Bowers, right? But they don't have much substance of a functioning city outside of the tourism. And they don't have much of functioning depth on this Raiders team. I think they're going to be a very tough out in the AFC because Pete Carroll's a good head coach. Geno Smith is a good quarterback. I think if they run a run-first style offense, Ashton Jeanty is going to be a monster for them this year. And their defense is hit or miss. Depends on if Max Crosby can get to the quarterback a couple times or not. But yeah, I think they'll be a very tough out. I do like a lot of their offseason moves. I think they are no longer a complete pushover of a team. But because of some other teams' decision-making in this division and in the AFC in general, I don't think it's going to be quite enough for them to get into the playoffs in 2025.
Yeah, I've got them at 6 and 10. I might be a little low on them yet, but yeah, I mean, I would agree with pretty much everything Nick said. I think they got some pretty solid pieces, but I think that they got to get like, a solid franchise quarterback and not just, keep streaming quarterbacks. I don't like teams that stream quarterbacks. If you've noticed one thing from me on this podcast for a while now, teams that stream quarterbacks continuously, I do not view them highly. I think if you want to be good in the NFL, you've got to figure out how to get yourself a solid franchise quarterback. And Geno Smith, as solid as he might be, is like 35. He is not a franchise quarterback. So I think that the Raiders have pieces, but they've got to get a guy in there to to kind of round out everything. I don't view them as a win now team, and I think their schedule's decently tough. So I do think they will be massively improved, but I think they're still going to fall around that 6 to 8 win range, probably.
I'm right around there. I think they're in that 5 to 7. I have them at 5 and 12. I like certain pieces on this team, but I think they're another year or two out. Personally, I think there's a lot more development that needs to be had. You need a franchise quarterback. Geno's not bad, but he's a bridge to your next one. I have a strong feeling they're going to be in contention for the quarterback race next year with this upcoming draft. I have them at 5 and 12 just because I think they're going to drop a ton of games within the division. When you're playing the likes of the Chiefs, Broncos, and Chargers, it's going to be pretty tough.
I have them at 7 and 10. I think that they're building something, but like Joel said, they're not there yet. I mean, the last 2 draft picks are Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty, who more than likely are the 2 best overall players in those 2 drafts, like non-quarterbacks. And obviously Brock Bowers was awesome last year, and I think Ashton Genty's going to hit the ground running. I think Geno Smith is a significant upgrade over Aiden O'Connell, which no one will disagree about. Back with Pete Carroll. Jacoby Myers, I think, is underrated. But outside of that, there's not much. ESPN has Jackson Powers Johnson starting at center and right guard. So Alex Kappa is so bad that Jackson Powers Johnson will be playing
2 positions,
the whole right side of the offensive line. And I can't blame him. Alex Kappa sucks.
Oh gosh.
But then on defense, it's Max Crosby, and that's it.
They have Jermaine Pratt, Zach.
They do have Jermaine Pratt. And they moved Jamal Adams to linebacker.
Yeah, they did.
So that'll be fun. But I like the Raiders' last 2 first-round draft picks. So I think if they keep on that trajectory, I think that they should be able to build a good team. But yeah, I don't think Geno Smith is like going to be their answer at quarterback. I do think they should, draft someone eventually. But I think what is that, a 3-win upgrade, adding Geno Smith and Ashton Genty, I don't think it's completely out of the question.
Yeah.
Let's go to the Los Angeles Chargers. How do you think they're going to be in 2025?
I got the Chargers at 9 and 8. I think that I was shocked that they won 11 games last year. I think kind of a similar deal. I think it's a pretty good team. I just think they got a pretty brutal schedule, and I'll explain more when we get to the next 2 teams in this division why I have the Chargers at 9 and 8. But yeah, I think that it's a pretty good team. I just think, yeah, literally, you will see why I have them at 9 and 8 when we get to the next 2 teams in this.
Are they a playoff team for you, Weaver?
I do not have them in the playoffs in this. In what I have, I think they very well could make the playoffs, but I don't have them making it in what I have written up here.
Okay, I have them at 10 and 7 as my 7 seed. They were my last team in. I think I'm excited for this offense. I'm going to be upfront on that one. They brought in an old timer again. I love that the first name I'm bringing up is an old timer. Keenan Allen got brought back, so that's going to be interesting. I think Glad takes a big step up this year. I think that this team is solid. But I genuinely like two teams within this division better than them. It's tough. But yeah, I have them 10-7, my last playoff team.
All right, I have them 7-10.
Ooh,
dang.
Missing the playoffs. Someone in the AFC is going to regress this year. There's not going to be the exact same teams in the NFC making the AFC making the playoffs this year. I think the Rashawn Slater injury is massive for them. It is a shame that he can't stay healthy because he is a very good tackle. But he's just had injury problems. In theory, they addressed the receiver room kind of, but I don't know if the husk of Keenan Allen and Trey Harris are really gonna light the world on fire. And I think that Jesse Minter has a history of producing worse defenses the longer that he is an NFL coordinator. So I think the Chargers defense, while good in scheme, does not have phenomenal personnel. And I think the division they play in is very, very tough, along with the schedule they're going to receive for being a second place team last year. I very well could be wrong. Justin Herbert may go nuclear again. But they don't really have that style of offense to let him kind of just rip it. So yeah, I don't love the Chargers offseason. Someone in the AFC is going to regress, so I think it's going to be LA. I think they got a little lucky winning as many games as they did last year.
I still like the Chargers. I have them at 10-7, as my 6th seed in the playoffs. I think they added a lot this offseason. They added Mekhi Becton, which, shored up that offensive line. Obviously, it sucks that Sean Slater's out. That's a big hit. But you now run, Joel Alt, Bradley Bozeman, Zion Johnson, and Mekhi Becton's a pretty good offensive line for a run-first team. And then you add in Amarian Hampton, who I think is going to be an absolute stud. He was the second running back taken in the draft this year. I think he's gonna be really good because Najee Harris has one eye currently, so he's probably not going to play a whole lot. But I think both of those running backs are an upgrade over what they had last year in J.K. Dobbins, and I think Justin Herbert towards the end of last year was really throwing the ball a lot more. And he finished his season with a 23-3 touchdown ratio, and he was throwing for about 300 yards in the last 4 games. So, the offense started to throw the ball a lot more. And I agree with Joel. I think Ladd McConkey's going to have a big year too. I like Trey Harris. I think if he can get on the field, I think he's going to be really good. But then after that, it's Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnson, which isn't too much to write home about. But I mean, this defense was second in opponents' points per game last year. So their defense was phenomenal last year, and it's roughly the same, except, they got rid of Joey Bosa. But I still think that this team's going to be really good. I think Justin Herbert, they said they're going to throw the ball more, and he's going to run the ball more. And I think that's going to be a recipe for success. Just kind of unleashing him more, I think, is always good, because we've seen that, when he throws the ball, he's an elite quarterback. And so I'm high on the Chargers. I think they're going to be a really good team still. Jim Harbaugh, I think, is obviously a good head coach, and he took this team from a bottom feeder in the AFC to an 11-6 team. And so I think that they have a 1-game regression just because of how good this AFC West is now, but I still am a big fan of the Chargers. All right, let's move on to the Denver Broncos. How do you think they're going to be in 2025?
I am pretty high on the Broncos here. I'm a big Bo Nix guy. He hit for me last year, so that was good to see. I think they improved their defense. They got RJ Harvey on offense.
Evan Engram added to their offense.
Cortland Sutton's good. Marvin Mims really turned it on at the end of the year last year, so I think he's good. This Broncos team is going to be really good. They had one of the best defenses in the league last year, and they added that corner from Texas, I think, who whatever the heck his name is.
Jahdae Barron.
Yeah, Jahdae Barron.
They also got Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga.
Yeah, so this Broncos team is going to be really freaking good. I've got the Broncos at 13-4. I have them as my 5 seed.
That's wild, a 13-4 5 seed.
Yeah, well,
The Vikings were 14 and
guys-
Yeah,
3.
that was
that is
like
a
the
good point.
Vikings and the
You
Lions
guys
last year.
know who the last team in this division is, so
I know. I know.
yeah, I got the Broncos at 13-4. I think this is going to be a really freaking good football team.
That I have them. I have them in the playoffs. I had them as my 6th seed at 11-6. But I think this is a team, like Zach said, I think this is a team that is on the verge. This team is good. They're gonna be
They're
good.
good. Yeah.
They're gonna be good this year. There's no doubt in my mind on this one. I think if Bo Nix can play like he did last year at the end of the year, they're set for a while. All they did was improve this offseason. Like, I really can't think. I've even seen things where that people have the Broncos winning the division. I
don't think that's crazy.
I don't think it's crazy either. Words are hard. Either. I don't think it's crazy, but you have to give the last team that's in this division the credit. So I have them at 6. I have them in. I think that they're going to be a dark horse this year. I think they're going to be really good.
I also have them in 11-6. They are my 5 seed in the AFC. Yeah, I think they're going to be very good. I'm not sure how much better Bo Nix can play. But I've been proven wrong with Bo Nix and the Broncos last year. So who knows if it'll happen again. Yeah, they were one of the best defenses in the league last year. They improved that. Bo Nix was very good, and they gave him more weapons to work with Evan Ingram and RJ Harvey in the backfield. They've already got a bit of an advantage at home playing as high up as they do. Yeah, I think they're going to be a very good team. I think that defense is going to be ridiculous. Arguably the best in the league, if not that top 3, probably. They just don't really have a weakness on the defensive side of the ball. And yeah, if they weren't playing in the AFC West, I think they would contend for the division, but you have to give the team that's remaining the benefit of the doubt until proven otherwise.
I have the Broncos at 12-5. I'm like Weave. I'm very high on them. I have them as my 5th seed. I think they just got better this year. Year 2 Bo Nix, I think, is going to be good. You brought in RJ Harvey, I think, is going to be good. Evan Ingram, I think, if he can stay healthy, is going to be a big piece. I think a huge thing is they returned all of their offensive linemen who finished the season with a 90.8 pass blocking grade last year. So they have a top 3 offensive lineman in the league. And then the defense, which was top of the league as well. You know, you add in Dre Greenlaw, Telo Hufanga. So I just think that this Broncos team is really good from top to bottom. Sean Payton's shown that he's still a really good head coach. And yeah, I think, just to echo everything you guys have said, if they weren't in the AFC West, I would have had them winning the division. But I think they're gonna be a scary team come playoff time. I think they're gonna be really, really good. All right, and last team in the AFC West, the Kansas City Chiefs.
There's not really much to say here. The Chiefs are my 1. They win the division. They're actually my 2 seed. I've got them at 13-4, tied with the Broncos, but they take the division due to the head-to-head tiebreaker. I've got the Broncos at 5-1 in this division, I have the Chiefs at 5-1 in this division. The Broncos were 3-3 in the division, so that would be why they are the division winner. And the only reason is because of Patrick Mahomes. I don't think that this Chiefs team is really much to write home about outside of Patrick Mahomes. And obviously their defense is pretty good, but I mean, offensively, Patrick Mahomes is the only reason this team is 13-4. Patrick Mahomes is the only reason that they went 14-2 last year. Patrick Mahomes is the only reason they went to the Super Bowl last year. So you pretty much have to give it to them until it has been proven otherwise. So the Chiefs win the division at 13-4.
What just happened?
All right. I have the Chiefs also winning the division. I have them at 12-5. I do think they did lose a couple players, in particular Joe Thuney on the offensive line. I'm going to push back on Patrick Mahomes was the reason they went to the Super Bowl. This team is disgustingly loaded. with the likes of Creed Humphrey, Chris Jones, Trent McDuffie, Steve Spagnuolo on the defensive line. Rasheed Rice is coming back. Isaiah Pacheco in the backfield. He's not like a stud, but he's still good. I'm trying to put this in the most respectful way possible. I don't think Travis Kelce cares about football nearly as much as he has in the past these days, which is fair considering his personal life outside of football, and him getting a little bit up there in age. But he's still obviously a future Hall of Famer. And yeah, with Andy Reid at the helm, I think you have to give this team the benefit of the doubt until otherwise. I don't know if I've said they're my 2 seed as well, but they are my 2 seed. Goodbye, Joel.
Yeah, I have the Chiefs at 14-3. Like you guys said, until proven otherwise, I'm gonna have them at the top. Yeah, I think they did lose offensive line, but I do think Josh Simmons is going to be a big piece for him. That defense is still phenomenal. And then you have year 2 of Xavier Worthy, Rasheed Rice, if he can get his stuff figured out, and then Hollywood Brown. Isaiah Pacheco, I think, is going to be good again. And then obviously, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Steve Spagnuolo, all that stuff. So I think it's still going to be tough for a team to beat the Chiefs. And I have them at 14-3. They are my 1 seed, barely. But you'll see why. But yeah, I have the Chiefs.
Chiefs are my 1 seed. I have them at 14-3. Sorry, laptop crash. I don't know what happened. But yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to 2 teams for the 1 seed in the AFC, and it's the Chiefs and the Bills. If you have one of those 2, I feel one of those 2 at the top makes sense. So I'm gonna go with the Chiefs. I think Mahomes is primed for a potential MVP season again. I think their offense, if they can stay healthy, is going to be great. So we'll just kind of wait and see what happens there. But I have them number 1 seed, 14-3.
All right, let's go to the AFC East. Let's start with the New York Jets.
Can we do the North first, Evan? Because I might have to leave.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine. That is fine. All right, let's go to the AFC North. Let's start with the Cleveland Browns. How do you think they're going to be?
You want to do it or me?
I got the Browns at 4-13.
Okay, I have them at the same thing.
This is not a very good team. They have 5 quarterbacks. I don't know what's going on here. It's just the same Browns team we always see. They got a good defense and their offense is trash, so there's not too much to be said there. They're 4-13. They will be in the quarterback sweepstakes next year, I would say. Interestingly enough, they took 2 quarterbacks in this year's draft, though, so I don't really know what I'm not sure what's going on up there in Cleveland, but it's the same story every year. Good defense, trash offense. So that's where we're at.
4-13. Myles Garrett still potentially in the running for Defensive Player of the Year, but outside of that, I don't have any confidence in this team. 4-13.
Yeah, they're 3-14 for me. Pretty much the exact same thing as what Joel said. I don't have much confidence in this team outside of guys like Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward. And their quarterback situation is also a complete disaster. So,
yeah, I have them also at 3-14. They're just not a good football team. I do think that Shador will probably start early, towards the back end of the season. But there's an old adage: if you have 2 or 3 quarterbacks, you don't have a quarterback at all. So that's what the Browns are currently. All right, let's go to the Cincinnati Bengals. Me and we've talked about them at length on our Around the Jungle channel, which you should check out. But how do you guys think they're going to be in 2025?
Yeah, we talked about this for quite a while on our Bengals podcast. So, yeah, like Evan said, definitely just go watch that if you want to really hear an in-depth review here. But I did change my ranking just for this specific one. Just change it up a little bit. This is more of my hopeful prediction for the Bengals. I've got them at 10-7. And I think that we're looking at anywhere from 9 to I think 10 to 12 wins is their ceiling. So this is probably my this is definitely my more hopeful prediction. So I've got them at 10-7. They split the division. Obviously, we're going to lose the Browns once. We always do. And, Ravens and Steelers always are pretty good games. So 10-7, we split the division. I have us starting out the season 1-5 and getting it turned around. So, 10-7. Second in the division.
Evan, you want to go?
Sure. I have them at 9-8. I think it's going to be an exact carbon copy of last year. I don't think they did enough defensively to improve. And I don't know if Al Golden is the savior. I'm also not 100% confident that Trey Hendrickson will be on the team. I think he will, but the offensive line is still an issue. Their depth is an issue. They've already had a big injury with Cordell Volson there. And then defensively, I'm still worried because, their ones got gashed by Will Shipley and Chris Rodriguez, which is fun. But yeah, I would agree with Reeve. I think their ceiling is 10 to 11 wins. So if the defense is slightly improved, I think they get to that 10-11. But I have them at 9-8, missing the playoffs for the third straight season.
I had that in the Bengals podcast, so I went with my more hopeful prediction here.
Okay. I have them sitting at 9-8 as well and missing the playoffs. I want to be hopeful with them. I went back and forth with this, but I don't think they make the playoffs. So, defense did nothing. I don't think that they're in a good spot there. Like you said, Evan, I don't think Travion Henderson or not Travion Henderson, but Trey Hendrickson is going to be on the team before long. And yeah, I don't know. It's a dumpster fire.
I have no dog in this fight. So this is an unbiased look. I have the Bengals at 10-7. They are my 7 seed. They sneak into the playoffs. Here's the thing for me. I put in my notes, should consist of many more stressful games.
Okay.
I have never seen a defense more situationally inept than the 2024 Cincinnati Bengals defense. Okay. They lost at least 3 or 4 games purely because they couldn't get a stop. They couldn't make one
I would
play.
say they lost probably 5 to 6 games purely because
they lost 3 to 4 games because of their defense, and they lost another 2 games because Evan McPherson can't kick a football anymore for some reason.
Yeah.
So
you left 6. That's 6 of our 8 losses we left on the board.
Yeah.
Due to
And then the week 1
crap.
blunder against the Patriots.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. They were a playoff caliber team last year, right? Like if their defense could just make 1 or 2 more plays, they get into a wild card spot. I struggle to believe that they will be that situationally inept again. There's no possible way. Surely, right? Like even
you would think.
I also
like
I do think the offense is not going to be they're going to be potent, obviously, but I don't know if Jamar Chase is going to win the Triple Crown again.
Probably not.
I think the defense making plays or more plays than they did, combined with the offense not being like as ridiculous, I think it evens out to a 10-7 record for them. I think they'll find their way back in the postseason. Just barely.
Yeah, you're higher than we are.
They are also my 6th seed in the playoffs, so I would agree with that. They barely find their way back in. But that is, like I said, that's my most hopeful one. My more reasonable one is like 8-9, 9-8, no playoffs.
All right, let's move on to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They were pretty busy this offseason. How do you think they're going to be in 2025?
They were busy, but they were busy with bull crap. They did nothing, in my opinion, that did anything for them. I mean, they I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to bring much to the table. I don't think DK Metcalf does anything for them. This is not a good offense. Their defense is it's the same story as the Browns. They just aren't quite as inept. I have them at 6-10. I don't like this team. This offense is like just terrible. It's just awful. And they made a lot of moves this offseason, but the moves were useless moves, in my opinion. They were just completely lateral moves across the board, in my opinion, for them. So I've got them at 6-10.
Nick?
I have them at 9-8. They, I believe, are my first team out of the AFC playoff picture. Yeah, they're the first team out of the AFC playoff picture for me. Listen, like we say that they don't have an offense, right? But they still find their way into the postseason almost every year. So it doesn't really matter. I think that Cincinnati will get a little more bounces to go their way this year. So they, law of averages, I think, get a little bit luckier than Pittsburgh, but it would not shock me at all if Pittsburgh won 10 or 11 games and is in the playoffs again to get bounced by a serious football team again. But yeah, I think their defense is still really good. The big problem is that they're getting older. Like, they're not getting any younger. They've been on the same hamster wheel for about 3 or 4 years now. And they refuse to do a complete overhaul for some reason. But as long as they don't do that, they'll still be a really tough out for every team that is mediocre. But then once the playoffs come around, they'll get waxed again. So 9-8, they missed the playoffs in my prediction. But I would not be shocked if they made it in.
I have them at 10-7. I have them making it into the playoffs. I think their defense wins them a lot more games than their offense does. I like the DK Metcalf move a lot more than most. I think he's an athletic freak. If he can dial into that, if him and Aaron Rodgers can make a connection, that's going to be great. I'm interested to see what the running back room is going to look like with Caleb Johnson in the picture. I just think, like we pointed out, I think their defense is going to win them games. And you can just about count on them being a 9-8 team or better. I think they're somehow going to get 10 games and lose in the first round. So
I also have them at 10-7. They went 10-7 last year with as bad of an offense. And I think that Aaron Rodgers is not good. I think DK Metcalf could be an upgrade over George Pickens. The Jonnu Smith trade really didn't make much sense to me, but he was good last year. But defensively, they added Jalen Ramsey, Darius Slay. So defensively, I think they're going to be really good. And so I agree with Joel. I think their defense is going to win them a lot of games. And if they went 10-7 last year with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields as their quarterbacks in and out half the time, I think they can do that again. So they're going to be, again, one of the worst 10-7 teams in football. All right. Last team in the AFC North, the Baltimore Ravens. How do you think they're going to be in 2025?
I have them at 12-5. They're my 3 seed in the AFC. I think Lamar's probably going to have a good year. Their offense still is going to be solid. Defensively, I trust them. I think their defense is pretty solid. But I think they're the best team in the AFC North, and it's pretty clear. They went out and added Jair Alexander. Their secondary looks nuts. And then you add in the guys like Roquan Smith, Odafe Owe, for example. Their defense is going to be pretty darn good. I'm interested to see if Zay Flowers can take a leap this year. He really didn't do much, even though Lamar still threw for 4,000 yards. Yeah, we'll kind of wait and see, but I have them 12-5, the 3 seed in the AFC North, or in the AFC.
Yeah, I'm just gonna 12-5, 3 seed in the AFC. The true test for this team is gonna be in January. We know what they're going to do in the regular season. They're the best team in the division by a wide margin, I think, at this point. It's just, can they, win the AFC for once and give Lamar a shot at his first Super Bowl? But he's got to play better in order for that to be the case. So, I want to point out that the Colts are up 31-7.
Yeah,
on
I
the
just saw that.
Bengals. At the start of the third quarter.
I have the Ravens
here
at
we come.
13-4 at third in the division. They basically brought back everybody offensively. And defensively, they added Jair Alexander, Malachi Starks. So I think defensively they're going to be really good. And we've seen that in the regular season, they've been able to play really well with a lot of these great teams like the Bills and the Chiefs. So I have them going 13-4 with being the 3 seed. All right, almost done. Last division in the AFC East. Let's start with the New York Jets. How are the New York Jets going to be in 2025?
I'll start. I have the Jets going 6-11. I mean, I think Justin Fields can help them a little bit, but I'm not sold on the Jets this year. 6-11. I don't think they're going to be very good.
I have them at 5-12. I don't know if Justin Fields is really gonna do much for them, and their defense is not what it was in 2023. Their defense can't carry subpar QB play the way they could a couple years ago. But maybe they have a bounce back year. They've got the talent too. But I just don't think Justin Fields is gonna be that guy for them to turn the offense around in 2025. Unfortunately, so they're last in the division for me, 5-12.
I have them at 4-13. I agree. I don't think Justin Fields really moves the needle that much. He also only has Garrett Wilson to throw the ball to, because their wide receiver 2 and 3 are Josh Reynolds and Alan Lazard, who suck. The offensive line, I think, is going to be pretty good. It's much improved, adding Armand Membu. Defensively, yeah, it's nothing crazy. So yeah, the Jets are not going to be a good team. Let's go to Miami Dolphins. How do you think they're going to be in 2025?
You want to do it, Nick?
Yeah. They are 7-10 for me. I struggle to see the direction they're going in for both present and future. Because they're in a weird spot. I think Mike McDaniel is very firmly on the hot seat, considering that the Dolphins have not improved since they made the playoffs a couple years ago. And Tua's health is always going to be a question mark now. It's weird for them. They've got very flashy pieces, but they don't have a ton of depth or consistency on the team these days, in my opinion. So 7-10. I think they need a little more depth on the offensive line and in trenches, to be full on honest with you. And Mike McDaniel, I just don't know if he's going to really get the most out of these guys these days.
I have them at 8-9. If Tua can stay healthy, that's 8-9. If he can't stay healthy, I could see them being at a 6-11.
They might be worse than that. They might genuinely win 3
No, I
games.
agree.
They still have not invested in a backup
They
quarterback.
drafted Quinn Ewers, but he's not the answer.
No.
Then it's Zach
and
Wilson.
Zach Wilson. So, yeah, I mean, I'm hoping to see something from the likes of Jalen Waddle, for example. I think Achan's a stud. But I also am in that place where it's I don't see the direction that they're going. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I have the Dolphins going 6-11. Tua's always a question mark. Achan's good. Tyreek Hill, I think, is completely checked out. I don't think he's going to have a good year this year. Jalen Waddle, I think, can have a bounce back. Their tight end is Darren Waller, who was just rapping a couple months ago. So he sucks. The offensive line isn't anything to write home about, and neither is the defense. So I do not think that the Dolphins.
Their trade for Minkah Fitzpatrick this summer was interesting.
Yeah, Minkah for Johnny Smith. Bring him back. All right. New England Patriots. They were pretty busy this offseason. How do you think they're going to do in 2025?
I have the Patriots at 10-7. They are
Big
my
jump.
6th seed in the AFC. I think they are the team that's going to benefit from a team like the Chargers taking a step back. I love what they did in the offseason. They outside of receiver, because Stephon Diggs is hurt, they kind of addressed every position that they needed to address. Their offensive line is much better through both the draft and free agency. They added a couple pieces on defense. Travion Henderson and Ramondre Stevenson are going to be a nasty backfield duo. And I think Drake May is legit. I think Drake May is going to take another step. I think he's got all the tools and the attitude to be a successful quarterback at the NFL level. And then you get a coach like Mike Vrabel, who's been here before. He knows what it takes to win. Multiple-time coach of the year. I think that New England is going to – I really hate saying this, but I think that they've set themselves up pretty well for this back half of the decade to be a sleeper team, a team that's going to cause a lot of issues for the AFC's elite. Because they know what they're doing. I think they go 10-7. They find their way back into the postseason. They're my 6th seed in the AFC this year.
I wanted to put them in, but with everything that I did for this, I have them at 9-8. I really wanted them in, but they just missed. I think they can. I completely agree with you, Nick. I think they can be in, and they're going to be a team that you have to deal with for the next couple years. They're going to be in the running. They're going to be there competing. I love Drake May. I think he's going to be a stud. The glimpses that he gave us at the back end of last season were promising. They went out and addressed a lot of needs. And when you go out and get a guy like Mike Vrabel in there, that's going to play huge. I think Mike Vrabel has a chance of being the coach of the year yet again this year. I have them 9-8, just missing.
I also have them at 9-8, barely missing the playoffs, so a 5-win improvement from last year. I think Drake May is going to take a huge step year 2. We've already seen that Travion Henderson's going to be an absolute stud. The wide receiver room is still lacking. You have Stephon Diggs coming back from his ACL injury, Demario Douglas and rookie Kyle Williams. Then you have like Keyshawn Boutte and Mac Hollins. So the wide receiver room is still leaves a lot left to be desired, but you have Hunter Henry at tight end. They drafted Will Campbell to shore up the offensive line. So the offensive line should be a lot better. And they brought in, Milton Williams, Robert Spillane, Harold Landry, Carlton Davis on defense, which I think are good pieces. So their defense should be much improved, especially under Mike Vrabel. They brought back Josh McDaniels as the offensive coordinator, who I think is going to help. And so I think the Patriots, they got a lot better this year, and so I think that they're going to just barely miss the playoffs. I would have loved to put them in, but they just barely missed the cut. But they're heading on a very high trajectory, and I'm loving what they're doing currently. All right, last and final team, the Buffalo Bills. How do you think they're going to be?
I have them 13-4, my 2 seed in the AFC. I mean, Josh Allen's going to be in contention for MVP yet again. I just think this team has a chance to win the Super Bowl this year. They're a Super Bowl team. They're right there.
They've been knocking on the door for quite some time now.
And
this isn't a Ravens situation where Josh Allen isn't playing well. They've been 1 or 2 plays away for about 3 consecutive years.
Exactly. Who was that?
In terms of winning the Super Bowl, or at least making the Super Bowl. I have them at 13-4. They are my 1 seed in the AFC this season. It's Josh Allen in Buffalo's division as long as Josh Allen stays healthy. It's very similar to how Tom Brady was in this division for 20 years. Like, as long as Josh Allen's a Buffalo Bill, the Bills are going to win the division. That's just how it is. I will say that if they have another year where they don't make the Super Bowl, Sean McDermott's job could be up in the air. Fair or not, like, you have a guy in Josh Allen, you've got to take advantage of this. Like, you have to win a Super Bowl with him at some point. And if the longer you don't, like, the hotter his seat's going to be. But they'll have that test come January, I'm sure. But yeah, they're my 1 seed in the AFC this season. I think this could be their year.
I have the Bills at 14-3 as my 2 seed. I think the Bills are going to be really good. Obviously, Josh Allen's MVP. James Cook was really good last year. Then they have Khalil Shakir, and I think Keon Coleman could take a year 2 jump. That offensive line is still really good. Defensively, they added Joey Bosa, which I think if he can stay healthy will be good, but their defense is, kind of getting older, but it's still very good. So yeah, I think the Bills are still right there in Super Bowl contention. I agree with basically what you guys said, that they're knocking on the door and they very well could break through this season. So that's going to wrap it up for us today. I know this was a long episode, but, these ones are fun to do, but they are long. But I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys stuck with us. We're excited for football to begin. We got college football next week and NFL 2 weeks from now. So we're looking forward to that. We've been anxiously waiting. But yeah, we thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.